You see people do this. It's kind of cocky, kind of sexy. Makes you think anything can happen with this guy. Now, how about you? You like adventure? You like danger and danger? Well, if you do, you just gotta read Alexander the Great by Arian. Whew, this guy was amazing. Al was 22 when he set out to end the Persian tyranny over the Greeks. And in every battle, him and his buddies would vie with each other in taking huge risks, in showing reckless courage, just for the glory of it. But after defeating the Persians and sweeping across Asia into India, his men had had enough adventure and they wanted to go home. Al, he wanted to go on forever on the original young man's great adventure. His men said, "Screw it, Al, let's go home." Al hid in his tent for a week and pouted. But he couldn't change their minds. So finally, he agreed. But first, one last adventure. You see, this fortress way up in the mountains had been given Al the diplomatic equivalent of na 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 na, thinking themselves impregnable because they'd never been conquered by anyone except the immortal Hercules, supposedly. What they didn't know, Al wanted to do anything Achilles or Hercules had done, supposedly. So Al gets the army to slog up through the mountains, and when they get in front of the city walls, the city leaders are still going, na 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 na, because Al doesn't have any siege equipment. They couldn't carry it up through the mountains. All they have is a couple rickety ladders. But Al says, "Screw it, boys, let's go." And he runs in his tent and comes out wearing the fabled golden armor of Achilles. Whoa, something he didn't normally do, but this day he does. Doesn't help. The assault is failing. Nobody wants to die on this mountain. So finally Al gets pissed off, grabs a ladder and goes charging up. Just as he gets to the top, the ladder breaks, and suddenly Al's alone on the city walls, surrounded by the enemy. Luckily, the enemy's a bit shaky. They know it's Alexander the Great. As Arian writes, his legendary courage, no less than his shining armor, proclaims him. A couple brave ones go at him, but he quickly dispatches them, and the rest fall back and start shooting arrows and flinging spears, trying to cut him down. Al's got some options. He can stay there and get shredded. He can leap back to the safety of his troops. Or, if he truly has reckless courage, or maybe he just doesn't care anymore, he can leap down into the city and just see what happens. That's what Al does. He leaps into the city and starts fighting. His men, seeing him disappear, go crazy and start scrambling up the walls any way they can, digging their knives into the mortar, dragging themselves up. But before they can reach him, an arrow comes over the shield of Achilles and phoop, punctures his lung. Air is bubbling out of the wound. His men think he's gonna die right there. Al the Great, dead on the field. But they carry him away, get him to his doctors, and somehow the guy survives. After a month recuperating in his own camp, he's put on a raft and floats down the river to where the army is. When his men see him approaching, they start cheering and wade into the water, carrying him back to shore. Soldiers come up crying, wanting to touch him, because his men love Alexander. They've been through so much together. They love Alexander. The thing is, because of where he'd been injured, the arrow ripping his muscles, when it healed, his head tipped to one side like this. His soldiers, seeing it, thought, "Hey, man, that's pretty cool, kind of cocky, kind of sexy." So they started doing it. Other soldiers seeing him, they started doing it. And pretty soon the whole damn army was doing it. And then people around the empire started doing it. And 400 years later, Roman emperors were doing it. And it's still done today. But now, when you see him do it, you'll know who did it first. Hail Alexander. Hail Alexander. He had reckless courage.